What we are seeing through inflation is what I like to call reverse Robin Hood. You all know Robin Hood. He stole from the rich to give to the poor. And today, the Fed and the government are stealing from the poor and the middle class to give to the rich. Reverse Robin Hood is where we are today. And we've got to stop it. And I think we can. But inflation is not only thievery, inflation can destroy a nation. In 1946, Henry Hazlitt wrote a book, and in it he said, inflation tears apart the whole fabric of stable economic relationships. It drives men toward desperate remedies. It leads men toward demand totalitarian controls. It ends invariably in bitter disillusion and collapse. Now, I put a chart up here of the value of the Reichsmark in Germany. As some of you probably know, at the end of World War I, the German people it was demanded of them that they pay reparations for what the war had accomplished and the destruction that had been wreaked. So the German government, in order to pay off, started inflating the currency. When you look at the top of this chart, you see it says $1 US converts to, in January of 1922, 189 Reichsmarks. And then it went to 303, and then 1,800, then 7,000. And you can see it gradually going up, 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 up. And finally it went in October of 1924 to 4.2 trillion Reichsmarks for $1 US. And at that point, the German government just reclassified the currency, and they said 1 trillion Reichsmarks is now one new Rentenmark. Now, what did that do to Germany? Well, the people lost their homes, they lost their farms, they lost their business, and they became very bitter. Can it get that bad here? Ladies and gentlemen, look at that chart. Can we suffer the same problems? Yes. And what happened in Germany? Go back to what Hazlitt said. He said it leads men to demand totalitarian controls. And so the German people were finally offered a fellow who said he could restore German pride and he would put Germany back on its feet again. And his name, you know, was Adolf Hitler. And totalitarian controls followed. So inflation is not only thievery, inflation can destroy a nation, and it can destroy ours if we don't get it stopped. Here's a letter that was written from Germany to an American citizen with an Italian name, Attilio Ennui. The date on the letter is December of 1925. He wrote to the Deutsche Bank in Berlin, and he asked what happened to his 1 million marks deposit. And they went through a nice letter, and I underlined and blew up the key part. They told him the balance on your account has, in fact, been wiped out. Can that happen to your balances? And mine? Yes, it can. Let's talk about money for a bit. There's 3 kinds of money, only 3 kinds of money. The first is commodity money. And it can be gold, it can be silver, it can be coins or bars, it can be platinum, it can be something else. You go back over history and you find that gold and silver have been decided upon as good money throughout the course of history. You will even find gold and silver mentioned as currency in Holy Scripture, written 2,000 years ago. Well, the next kind of money is fiduciary money, and the word fiduciary comes from the Latin word that means trust. And so fiduciary money is essentially valueless substitute for commodity money, but its value is based on trust, that it can be exchanged for commodity money. And so gold or silver certificates that were exchangeable for gold or silver are fiduciary money. And then the third kind of money is fiat money, again Latin. Fiat is an edict, a dictate. Fiat money is a valueless substance. It's made legal tender by law. It becomes money as a result of government edict, not redeemable in either commodity or fiduciary money. Now, ladies and gentlemen, our country had commodity money until the 1930s and into the 70s even. Then we had fiduciary money, and now we have fiat money. And fiat money is like monopoly money. The only reason it still has value is because the government has said you must accept it as legal tender for all debts, public and private. but that can change as well. Money has to be an accepted commodity. What has history shown us have been used as commodities for money? Amazingly, cattle were used as money, but there were problems, and cattle had to be fed. You couldn't divide up the cattle for small transactions. You'd kill the money. Seashells were used, but they were fragile. They broke, and then they become less valuable. Salt was used as money, and it's from the use of salt as money that we get our word salary. That's where it comes from. But salt was easy to find and easy to inflate. Nails were used as money, but they rusted. And even tobacco was used as money, but it rotted. And they discarded that as money too. So throughout the course of history, men have decided gold and silver. It could use platinum, but gold and silver are the most common. Gold is divisible, transportable, it's durable, and it's scarce. It's scarce. Gold cannot be inflated. It's durable. You could put a bar of gold in the ocean where anything else would just rust and disappear. A bar of steel or ironwood. You come back a year later, you still got your bar of gold. Silver is good as well. Not as good as gold, but good. This decision to use gold and silver was not decided by some government agency. No. The accumulated wisdom of mankind decided to use gold and silver. Now let's get into the important feature of what does the Constitution of the United States say about money. And there's only two places. The first place is Article 1, Section 8, I guess it is. Congress shall have power to coin money, regulate the value thereof, and of foreign coin, and fix the standard of weights and measures. What does that mean? What power was given to Congress in the Constitution of the United States? Its first power was to establish a mint, to stamp the people's precious metals into coinage of a fixed size, weight, and purity. Ladies and gentlemen, that spurred commerce. If you had coinage that people now knew what the value was because they knew it was so many ounces or portions of an ounce, it was pure, and it was a fixed size, readily recognizable, it made commerce very much more simple. And it's one of the reasons why our country began to take off. They started the mint in 1791, just right after the Constitution had been ratified. And the mint, of course, the people would bring their gold and their silver to the mint and ask for the mint to stamp it into coinage. No charge. If you wanted, however, you could bring your gold and silver and say, look, I'm in a hurry, I need it tomorrow or 2 days or something like that. Then you could pay a fee to the mint in order to have it done speedily. Now that constitutional power also says determine and then publish the value of various foreign coinage. The most common coinage in our country at the time of the War for Independence was Spanish pieces of 8. And if you've ever seen one of them, it's actually slotted. It's like a pizza pie with the slices already through it. And you could break off pieces of it. Pieces of 8 is what they called it. And if you broke off 2 of them, you had 2 bits, a quarter. And that's where that phrase comes from. 2 bits was a quarter. 4 bits was a half. So the government was given the power to determine what the value of foreign coinage was. They were not only Spanish pieces of 8, but they were doubloons, they were this, they were that, they were something else. And the government said, well, these are worth this, these are worth that, and these are worth something else. And that, too, spurred commerce. And finally, the government was given power, the Congress, the power to create a standard of weights and measures to facilitate normal transactions. There will be 12 inches in a foot. There will be 5,280 in a mile. There will be 16 ounces in a pound, and so on. And that's all that Congress was granted in the Constitution of the United States. Were they given power to start a bank? No. Were they given power to transfer power that they didn't have to the Federal Reserve to start something? No, of course not. Now, that's so little known, but it has to be known.